Welcome to Three Films and a Podcast, the show where destiny brought together three friends to enhance each other's cinematic journey by watching three new movies in a series of themed rounds. There is no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode, as all film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy!
Hello and welcome to Three Films and a Podcast. My name is Tyler Beck, and I am joined, as always, by the wonderful and talented, and some would even say wonderfully talented, I know I would, Ben Lawhorn and Matthew Weiler. And to get acquainted with Ben, he's going to tell you all about our website and all of our Patreon options and all that good stuff.
I'll start out by saying bonjour.
Wow.
Oui?
Yep, high school French is paying off. All 2 years.
Wait, you took French in high school too?
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Yes, you can find all of our stuff. We have a website, threefilmspod.com, and on there is a lot of cool stuff, including the links to everything that you might want to listen to or watch. There's also some merch that Matt has designed wonderfully. So if you want some cool if you want Matt on your body, you can go to our website and make that happen. That's kind of like that's how I like to pitch it.
For money. He doesn't give it away for free.
Not for free.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
You got to pay for it.
You have to pay, but you can have Matt on your person. But also on there is our Patreon, where you can just kind of help support us. And we do some early releases and things like that. So feel free to, if you like what we're doing, you could support us there. So yeah, that's it.
Do that.
Fiend.
Speaking of Matt, he's going to tell you all about our social media presence and our YouTube channel.
Oh,
aren't you, Matt?
Bon appetit.
We're really going to be pressing all of our knowledge of French here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you can find us anywhere on social media at Three Films Pod. We try to post things regularly on what we have scheduled. We like to solicit for guests, so check us out there. And of course on YouTube, it's our preferred method of consumption of this podcast. So check us out there if you are listening elsewhere.
Like and subscribe, guys. It means a lot to us.
Doesn't hurt.
And whether it's your first time here or your 100th time here, whatever, we're just happy to have you here. And I have to introduce everyone to a very special guest. Longtime listeners of the pod would know them from our Lost Daughter episode, also the Matrix episode. It's everyone's favorite guest, the easiest guest we have ever had on this podcast.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. We love Kayla. It's Kayla from Screen Vomit. They are, I don't know. I'm rambling here, but say hi, Kayla.
Hi, it's me. I was going to let you go and just see where you ended up. I thought it was an interesting journey of introduction for me.
I was curious how he implied easiest. So I was like, are we getting into personal life here or just, easy going on the pod? I think it's kind of open for interpretation.
Kayla keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I've hosted every show that they've been on, and I'm just, it's a journey. We love it, but it really keeps me, it keeps my improv, my yes and really sharp.
Yeah, you like to be really structured and you have all your stuff written out and stuff. Yeah. And I would like to challenge that and challenge you to think on the spot and be more spontaneous and, have a real conversation. So, that's just my vibe coming in, hell raising. Hi, I'm Kayla. I am, as mentioned, from the podcast Screen Vomit. From it and run it and am it.
You are Screen Vomit.
I am Screen Vomit. And do I plug my thing now or what?
Yeah, plug it. Also tell them where they can get this shirt that I'm wearing.
Okay, Ben has my gorgeous shirt on, designed by my friend Frank. Okay. So I have shirts and that are really cool design, but also I have a whole podcast and Instagram and everything else. I'm Screen Vomit everywhere. And all my links are in my bios on Crap with the t-shirt links and stuff. If you just have never heard of me and want to buy a cool shirt,
if you just like shirts,
go do that. Shirt. If you're horny for shirts, I have some. So even besides the podcast, I watch a lot of stuff and I post everything I watch on my Instagram stories. So, that's always a journey if you like movies too and you don't like podcasts. If you hate podcasts and you're listening to a podcast currently, check out my Instagram instead.
Yeah. Or go to her other website, their other website, hornyforshirts.com.
If you don't like podcasts, get off now.
I'm okay with the hater. You know what? I respect the hater. I respect the hater. I respect the hate listen, So yeah. Or if somebody's being forced to listen to this.
Haters welcome.
Yeah.
If you're being currently like detained by a cop and beaten up and this is playing in the background, I think that rocks too. So find my Instagram.
Screen Vomit, the #1 pod at Guantanamo. Feel free to check us out.
So that's me. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to also, before we get too far, you guys have already started speaking French. What is our relationship with French? I took French from 7th grade till I graduated high school, I think. Wow. So in
same.
school,
I don't remember any of it.
Yeah, that's not to say I'm fluent in any way possible. Yeah. But I did take a lot of French.
I have a decent accent. Like I can do the pronunciation fairly well, but I don't remember any of the words or whatever.
We'll be the judge of that.
We shall see. We shall see.
I took 2 years of it in high school. Maybe 3 years. I grew up in a religion that like we would go out and do missions like all over the world, and I really wanted to go to France because my dad did, and I thought like, well, if I put on my like application that I speak French, I'll definitely go there. And then 3 years later I go to Brazil, but I loved French. I think my teacher, I still don't know if she actually knew French as much as she like had the money to go to France, because like we watched Ever After a lot in French, like we did a lot of movie watching and a lot of like very remedial like stuff. I was like, I don't know if she actually knows this or if she just wants to tell us about going to Paris. But so yeah, 2 years of whatever I tried to retain from high school.
I know Spanish, and Spain is next to France.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's a lot of similarities. Like because I took French, I can always I can read some Spanish and like kind of understand what's happening. And same with Italian.
Those romance languages.
Sure. Yeah, all the romance languages. I also did have a French substitute teacher that would often sub for our French class. Couldn't understand a damn thing he said. He was like 100 years old. His hair was so greased up it was yellow. And but he would spell the French words wrong a lot when he wrote stuff down on the board, which I just think is funny. And of course, if it's your native language, like you probably spell shit wrong all the time. Like that's a normal thing to do. But if you're like a French teacher, you're paying really close attention to what you're spelling, right? But since you're just a French guy teaching French, then he fucked it up a lot. And I just think that's funny. So
I like that.
That's my story. Yeah.
French teacher
Tyler,
was
continue.
Just an old man that wanted to be French so bad. He was so not French, and he just wanted to be so bad. I almost feel bad for him. I can't remember his name. Pretty sweet guy, but he just was I don't know why he lived in West Jordan, Utah. He should have lived somewhere. He loved the south of France.
Quebec, like get out of here, man. Like what are you doing in Utah? Like,
yeah.
What are all you guys in Utah obsessed with France for? It's so random.
We're obsessed with getting out of Utah. I think that's the common theme here. So it's like, how do
fair.
we? Maybe French, that'll do it.
That's
well.
Fair.
So if you're listening to this pod, and you are because you're listening to this pod, or if you're watching wherever, you've probably guessed or you've read the notes of the episode that we're exploring French cinema for this round. This episode is the first installment of. And I chose this theme because, for a few simple reasons. I had been interested in just exploring other movies from other cultures and other countries after some of the explorations we've done through like the Apu trilogy and some of the Korean cinema, Japanese cinema we've watched. And not to say that we've watched even more than just scratching the surface of those, subcategories or whatever. But I just have been kind of interested in like exploring the best that different countries have to offer. And I really wanted to watch this week's movie. It happens to be a French film. So here we are. We're going to watch 3 French movies. We're going to watch this one. We're going to watch A Prophet and The Return of Martin Guerre. And this week's film is the 1995 cult classic La Haine. It stars Vincent Cassel, Hubert Koundé, and Saïd Taghmaoui. I don't know if I'm saying that stuff right, but I'm a white guy. What can you expect? I'm a white guy from
There's
West Jordan,
also a
Utah.
pretty cool cameo in this from Vincent London. Do you guys know
Yeah.
Vincent London?
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah, he does
I
lots of
think I
cool
do.
stuff. He's in what's the movie with the chick who fucks a car? Titane.
Okay.
He's in Titane, but he's also in this movie called La Moustache that is a really cool film about a guy who shaves his mustache and nobody notices, and so he goes insane. But he's in like a lot of really cool, like freaky, weird films. He's in Claire Denis' new film too, I think.
Oh.
What
Anyway,
does he
has
play
a cameo in this.
In La Haine?
He is like when they're stealing the car and the guy comes and knocks on the window.
Oh,
it's that dude? Hell yeah, that guy rules.
Yeah, it's that dude. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. That's rad. No, I don't know who that person is. And I think you recommended La Moustache on a previous episode, because once you said it sounded familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It sounds rad.
Great movie.
Sounds cool. Mm-hmm. And, you're always on episodes I host, so it seems like we have similar taste in things. So maybe, I don't know, I should give it a shot.
2 peas in a pod.
Yeah, this movie, it's been on my watch list for a long time. I'm not sure the first time I heard it or heard about it. But for whatever reason, it's just always been it's interesting to me and fast. Like, I've been really wanting to watch it. So I'm glad we finally did. And I'm curious, like, Matt, what was your experience with this movie? Like, had you heard of it? What was your first impressions upon watching, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I had seen this movie. It wasn't even on my radar. When I started watching it, my initial impressions of it, just based off of the first like 5 minutes, was like, oh great, here's another movie that's just like about like young, like youth in poverty, trying to be edgy, trying to be like cool, that I really would have probably loved when I was 15. But I was happy to be proven wrong as I watched. I thought there was a lot of great visual storytelling going on, some great composition and shots throughout. It probably lingered on some of the shots longer than I would have cared for, but overall, I thought it was a really cool commentary on class and on violence and hate. I thought that was really interesting, and it was similar to, and this might come up later, similar to like Boys in the Hood, where as a teenager I just thought was like cool and edgy and gangsta as like a white kid in Utah. I probably would have felt that way about this movie, but the themes in it are obviously a lot more grown up than that, and it wasn't cool or edgy to me. It was just a very interesting, commentary on those themes.
But also that's kind of the story for the kids in the movie too, right? Like they're so young and they just think, oh, we're being cool and edgy and gangsta. And then by the end they learn, oh no, there's actually like, there's bigger things at play here, right? That's kind of their journey too.
Yeah.
Right. And when it gets real, it's less fun.
Yeah, you have some of the characters in real time, like realizing, like, wait a second, this maybe isn't the way.
Yeah,
for sure. Benjamin, how about you? What had this been on your radar at all, or what's your story?
Yeah, I've seen it once before. A friend of mine, Danny, realized that I own this movie, but I hadn't seen it. I'm a big proponent of physical media, and I just like a lot of the Criterion stuff, and overall it's just kind of like, I don't know what this is, but it's on the Criterion thing, so I think it's worth checking out. That's kind of my overall view when it comes to those Barnes and Noble 50% off sales. I'm like, I don't know, let's check it out, and I just never had. So I finally did, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I get it. I understand why this is there.
You watched it just for now, or you're talking about a past experience?
I watched it before, probably like, I don't know, little like a decade ago, something like that. And I loved it. I thought it was great at the time. I mean, still, like, Vincent Cassel is the only person that I had like recognized in there. But I just thought it was such a cool, I love the camera work in this. I think that's what like stuck with me the most since seeing it the first time. Is like, I just remember really enjoying, like, feeling like I'm in there, like it's very kind of raw, I think. And I like that about it. I love the black and white aspect of it. And it's just like a really interesting story, as you guys have all mentioned, about, people kind of acting one way before, until realizing like what's really going on. But yeah, I loved it. I was glad that you recommended it. It was not fun, I don't know, but it was good to rewatch it. There's some scenes in here that just kind of like stick, looking ahead at some of the elevator pitches. It's like, these are all the things that kind of stuck with me. So it was really good to revisit it.
Yeah, apparently it was shot in color and then remastered in black and white. I can't remember the decision why, but I thought that was a good decision and an interesting.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be black and white, but they had the color version in case the black and white didn't hit. So they had the color ready to release just in case the black and white failed.
Like a re-release or whatever. Like
in case it was a flop, they would pull it and put the color version in.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm glad they stuck with the black and white. It definitely, I mean, it worked for me.
Yeah.
Kayla, what about you? What was your, how long had this been on your radar? Like, what was your impressions of it? All those sorts of things.
So I watched this movie for the first time a couple years ago, and it's since become one of my faves. So when you guys posted that you wanted to watch this, I was harassing you for 6 months until you let me do the podcast with you about it. Well, I mean, I love it, but I think what this film was to me, so, saying it out loud, we're all white here. And a couple of years ago, there was a big, with George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests and things like that. For me, watching stuff like this and listening to music and things like that reference these sort of topics was, even though I'm in my 30s, some of the first time that I really had like woken up to some of that messaging. And I thought it was really interesting that like people have been saying this kind of shit for decades and decades. And like somehow, I don't know if we're oblivious to it or we just weren't hearing it somehow, or I don't know. And it also is maybe a factor of like, I grew up in a predominantly white area. I am assuming Utah is also predominantly white. I've not been.
Yeah, correct.
But just like, I found it really kind of nuts that like people had always for a very long time been talking about like police violence, especially against people of color. Yeah. And that like, that wasn't really a message I had ever taken in somehow. Or at least, I don't know, not seriously. I don't really know how to explain it, but I think you guys know what I mean. Yeah.
I know right what you mean. We've talked about this on a few episodes now, dating back to the very first episode we recorded of this podcast, Do the Right Thing. We all echoed similar sentiments. It's like, man, this shit has been around forever, and we think we're so cute and we're so woke. Like, oh, we're finally realizing this stuff, but it's been around for so long. And like you said, for whatever reason.
Or like maybe we know it's there, but we didn't realize like quite the scope of it, or just couldn't really feel how huge it is, or how truly like gigantic and enormous and how
universal it is.
It is on a whole.
This is a French story, right? Like, this could have easily been a New York story, a Chicago story, a Portland story. It could have been a Salt Lake story for
Pleasant Grove story.
It could have been Pleasant Grove, man. Who knows? But and it's and it's interesting because it's also essentially the message of this movie, right? Like the ending of the movie being, so far so good until something happens and we all realize it's that we have the landing, right? And so I don't know. I completely agree, Kayla. It's something that like continually frustrates me. Watching a movie like this from 1995, and we have these pictures in our head of like, oh, I wish it could be like it used to be, but it's always been shitty. You know what I mean? And I think it's good. I think that the world is becoming more woke, I guess, for lack of a better term, and we have more access to this information, and we can see stories like this from across the world in real time.
Is really huge. Like the internet and just with the ease that we can access other cultures or hear the types of stories that we're not necessarily hearing when we live in all white neighborhoods, work with all white people, or primarily, that we don't always have access to, or we didn't, growing up in that time when we didn't have as much internet or access to things, to those type of stories and those types of experiences. And even when that shit is currently happening, the reporting in the news is maybe minimal. People aren't suffering consequences from it, least of all cops.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and the education is all, things are whitewashed. Entire histories are erased that that we receive. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting and it's heartbreaking to like find this kind of stuff. But I thought this was so good and such a good portrayal of that. And also it's also like really nuanced, incredible portrayal of like this white man being friends with all these people of color who is like being chaotic and who is causing a lot of problems or getting into trouble. Like, well, I don't give a fuck. I'll just get into trouble. What's it matter? Without kind of being unaware or oblivious to the fact that like the way he gets in trouble or the frequency with which he gets in trouble based on his skin color is going to be a lot different than the ways that his friends get in trouble. And the way that he acts can have a much worse and greater impact on the company that he's keeping. Living like this, not just kind of understanding the inequities between between being a person of color and between being a white person, his white privilege, that's what he's like coming to terms with in this film. And like, you hear people saying white privilege in the fucking 90s, you hear people talking about that shit. Even if people were talking about police and the relationship between police and people of color, they weren't talking about white privilege, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I never felt like I heard about that shit.
Not in like those kind of terms, at least, and I think there's, I don't remember it exactly, but I know there's a part where Vince is talking to Saeed and he's talking like, well, I'll be like the second Arabic person to get arrested. And Saeed's like, you're white. Like, what are you talking about? It's just like but I don't know if that speaks to how Vince is just like sees himself as like with all these people and just like doesn't see himself as white. But then as the audience, we're able to see kind of the white privilege, that he has. That
he is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He is white.
You are.
And he benefits from being white regardless of whether or not he wants to or feels like he is, he does benefit from being white. And that is true. We all benefit from being white in some way, even as like, I grew up in poverty, even as being like that type of person or growing up in those type of communities, even in underserved communities, I still carry privilege, even though my like youth wasn't overprivileged, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have things, I didn't have a lot of access to different things. I still carried some privilege because of the color of my skin.
For sure.
Yeah.
And
there were certain doors that were open to you.
That's also what he's dealing with.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Certainly doors were open to you that may not have been open to your neighbors. I don't know what the demographic of your neighborhood was, but yeah, certainly. I mean, I didn't grow up rich by any means, very much middle class, lower middle class, but like, we had it pretty easy. And there was, the neighborhood I grew up in was pretty high Hispanic, and like looking back, you can see the difference of how the community would like interact with that part of the community as opposed to like,
a white kid gets caught with weed, it was a slap on the wrist and a suspension, and a Latino kid gets caught with weed and it's expelled and juvenile detention. So
but even just like the way that we move through the world, like people of color are policed more often, not only by police, but by other white people, by business owners. They walk into a store and they're watched, because they might steal or something, and even if they're totally not, it doesn't matter. They're just kind of observed more in that way because of cultural bias. Or they're pulled over at higher rates or, things like that. So like, even just the way we move through the world is privileged at some times.
For sure.
And that's not to say it's like 100% strife for a person of color to just walk around, but like, but
it exists.
It's less so for us. And the bias exists all the time.
I mean, I abused that privilege all the time growing up. I was a little shit, man. It's well documented. I saw hundreds of movies for free just by walking in, like blatantly, not even trying to be that sneaking into movies, or, we didn't do anything too crazy as far as like theft or vandalism, but like we were shitty.
And the cops are on their way, by the way.
Yeah, just so you know.
Right. And that's fine. They're not going to do anything to me. I understand my privilege.
First of all, they're not going to find you out there wherever you are.
Yeah, in the woods.
It's true, yeah.
And his camo in the middle of the woods underneath the full dog moon.
Good
or
luck,
whatever
cops.
Good luck, coppers. You haven't caught me yet. I need to knock on all the wood. Jesus Christ. Well, yeah, I echo all those sentiments. It's something I think about all the time watching these movies. Especially like, whether it's police brutality or queer stories or messages, like it's I don't know. That's my favorite thing about this podcast is being able to kind of like see snapshots of our history through cinema and see like what was informing these stories and what were people talking about, and sort of,
and a lot of these type of stories, a lot of these type of stories or lefty stories or people fighting against the system, fighting against shit, are harder to find. I mean, this is on Criterion, but it's still kind of like a more artsy, kind of deeper film. But I found a lot more that are super underground. I found them by Googling random shit or just looking at someone's IMDb all the way at the bottom, or something, and that are saying the same shit that we're saying now. So that's been one really interesting part of my film journey, finding all these deep cut films that people have always been saying the same shit that we're currently saying, and nothing's fucking changed. I think that's really sad, but also interesting.
For sure.
Yeah, totally. And it's like an ego check for me, because I feel like I'm like, oh yeah, I'm up with what's going on. Like, I'm hearing you. Like, I want to be an ally. I want to recognize my privilege and whatever, be an advocate for change or whatever. And I feel like, not that I feel like it's like a brand new thing. I think, like you've said, it's always felt present, but it is disappointing to keep going back and seeing like, nope, they've been talking about this for years, for literal decades.
It's just in the subculture. It's got to be found.
For sure. Another interesting thing, kind of switching gears here, that this movie did for me, it kind of helped me. It kind of gave me an epiphany on the way that like I personally enjoy or critique any sort of artistic endeavor. So like watching this movie, I was enjoying it the entire time. Like Ben said, I enjoyed all the cinematography. I enjoyed the grittiness, like Matt was talking about.
The cinematography, by the way, I didn't mention it, but one of the strongest points of this movie. It's gorgeous. Totally, yeah. The shots are amazing. The composition, I love it. Love it. Okay,
yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of great what's the word I'm looking for? Blocking and choreography and just very specific.
The framing. Composition.
Composition. That's the one. Thank you. But it wasn't until the very end, like literally the last 45 seconds of this movie, like I was sitting at about like a 3.5 rating, and just that ending alone jumped it up to like almost a 5-star rating for me. And it just became instantly one of my favorite movies, just because of the way that they landed the movie, I guess, for if we're going to make a pun here.
Are you talking just like the very, very, very end, or like, is there a turning point for you?
It was literally just the way that they wrapped up. They bookended with the same phrase, right? He's falling down. So far, so good. So far, so good. It's not how you fall, it's how you land. But just the way that they tied it into the specific ending, like that.
When they do it twice towards the end. They're both like really impactful moments. First, it was it's us in the projects. So far, so good. So far, so good. Doesn't matter how you fall, it matters how you land. And then it's society on its way down.
Society in decline. Yeah, that's the one that got me. And once he said that, so far, so good, so far, so good. And to me, that's like what we've been talking about through all these years. We're like, well, so far, so good, And I got choked up, and it just like, it was really, really impactful, and it really made me think. And I started thinking like, so this whole movie was essentially a setup for that one punchline. And at first, I kind of was annoyed by it in a weird way, because I'm like, we don't need an hour and a half to set up this message. But when I really got to thinking about it, like, it just made it all the more impactful and important and beautiful to me. And it made me really step back and think about the way that or like what I expect from a movie, right? Like, I have almost an expectation for the movie to feel like 5 stars or whatever the entire time. Right. And I'm like, I actually think it's okay for there to be just one 5-star moment and have a whole lead up to it. I don't really know if I'm articulating it that well, but it just there's something so beautiful to me about just watching this whole story play out, and then one quick flash in the pan, like shot to the heart moment, and then cut to black. And I think it was worth it. It's like I'm even, this is random, but I'm even thinking of like watching a show like Succession, something I've been trying to catch up on and really enjoying, only having like a few moments that really sat with me emotionally or really made me think. And I'm just like, I think that's okay. Like, I think that's the point of good art, is to make you think and feel something. And whether you get it for the entirety of the hour and a half, or it just happens in one small punch like that, with all the context leading up to it, I don't know. I think it's important. I think it's a good thing. And it's just like I don't know. I'm definitely rambling here, but it's just something I have been thinking about a lot since watching this. Is just
I definitely think it is better
media.
Practice to judge a piece of art once you have the whole context. Like, because it can be a lead up, it can be a slow burn, it can be, but every piece of this leads to the next piece. You couldn't lose some of the pieces. Another thing I thought was really cool about this movie, just based on, I've watched a lot of French film. I love French film. They're usually not this funny to me. Like, there are a lot of moments of comedy in this. And that was something that really surprised me the first time that I watched it too, was like, it's dark, it's real. It's very real, but there is a lot of comedy. Like, it's not entirely tragic. It is like friendship and goofing around and, razzing people and being goofy sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think it's maybe important to note that this film was inspired by a real police killing, a real killing of a man who was shot at point blank range when chained to a radiator by a cop. And that happened on my 4th birthday.
Wow.
Were you there?
I was the cop. No, I'm just kidding. I would never be a cop. I would also never shoot someone or torture them, not even when I was 4.
Let's make that clear to the listeners.
Just being clear. But a lot of the stuff in this movie was based on real events, or there even is some unstaged footage used in this movie of actual riots that were happening. So I think that also like adds a lot of weight to it as well. And that person who was shot also was shot by accident, was being threatened with a gun that went off accidentally.
Oh, damn.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
But that ties into this film too, because that's how the main guy dies. So I just think that's, I don't want to say cool, because murder is not cool. But I think it's
watch out.
One thing I thought was interesting was
I'm in general pro crime, but not pro murder.
For sure. Yeah, crime all the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, when
I draw a line.
This movie really pissed off the police in France. They at Cannes, they turned their backs to the crew. The cops turned their backs to the crew when they were walking in to show disrespect to them, because they were so disappointed, which I think is really funny. Like, you're still doing your job, you dick. Like, like,
no, that's messed up, anything, man.
But
how dare they?
How dare they? Well, so I'm curious, if you had to show someone a scene from this movie to try and convince them, as if all of our ranting and raving previously isn't enough, let's show someone a scene to entice them to watch this movie. Let's give them an elevator pitch.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
So, Benjamin, what scene would you pick here?
That's me. Well, the scene I was going to pick, also, as Kayla mentioned, I feel starts out pretty funny when all the dudes are in the bathroom, and then all of a sudden the door opens up and this little dude's just like, nothing like a good shit. It's like,
I love that part. Yeah.
We're all the same.
Yeah, we're all the same. Everybody poops.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I really enjoyed.
Then he comes out and tells a weird little fucked up story.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I liked about it. Is like
trying to take a shit who like it was private and he had to get off a train to take a shit. And then the train took off. And then he's like trying to run with his pants down. And then he froze to death. It's like,
it's so weird. And just like the way the guys like interpret that story. Because obviously you can take some deeper meaning of just like, are you willing to set aside your pride, in order to like literally save your life, and the things that, he's like talking about real sacrifice, like, oh, we had to get work, but it was in like Siberia, that kind of a thing. And not that the main characters aren't dealing with real stuff, but everyone's got their own story and their own experience.
They don't have a lot of global context. They don't really know what they're dealing with. They're young. They know they're dealing with something. Yeah. They know something's fucked up and they should be mad and they are mad.
Yeah.
They don't have the full context of why and the historical context of what's led up to this moment. They don't have full context. They just have the anger.
Yeah.
So having that little global story is probably helpful to their journey.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I love this scene, because I think it just, kind of helps put some context into everything while also being a little funny. And if I remember right, after he leaves, the guys are just like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like they didn't really like get it at all, So,
but you could tell it stuck with them. They talk about it multiple times throughout the rest of the movie, trying to, you could tell that it had an impact on them. They just didn't quite understand why.
Yeah. So that's the scene I would pick, just because it is a little out of context. It's kind of interesting, and little scatological humor. Never hurt anybody, so why not kick it off with that? So that's that monologue is what I would pick.
Okay,
a solid pick. I immediately thought of Matt. I was like, this is a picture perfect Matt scene. Matt always picks the scene that you've never seen anything like it before.
That's a good pick.
And
I thought it was because of the shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Matt does love a poop joke.
I do.
This guy's talking about taking a shit, and I instantly thought of Matt.
5 stars.
Anytime I see someone taking a shit, I'm like, oh.
That's actually usually when people think of me, which I think is fun. People send me shit stuff all the time.
I don't know if this one is like the best one, but out of our collection here, I'd say it's probably number 2. But, yeah. There you go.
That's pretty good.
Add the fart noises there.
Trying to do like the drum, like ba-dum-bo fart noises, like that.
You need a fart noise and then a toilet flush at the end of it. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's flush that conversation and move on to Matthew's elevator pitch. Since Ben stole your scene, Matt, what are you going to choose?
Oh man, I'm going to go the opposite. Usually I go with something that people haven't seen before, and I'm going to go with something that everyone has seen before in pretty much like every, coming of age college type movie. And I loved when they went on top of the roof and they're in that sort of like fraternity like setting.
Yeah.
You have a guy up there cooking hot dogs. They're hassling each other. He has to get, I guess it's his brother that has to sort of bail him out. By the way, his brother just seems like a total awesome dude, like a total boss up there.
Yeah.
He's kind of a boss.
Yeah, he's like the kingpin up there. Yeah.
Yeah. No one is more dapper than that dude. And he was just such a cool guy. He's kind
of like a crime boss. Like everybody seems like they respect him and they like look to him to be a leader, right?
And he's still like telling off the police. He's like cooling his people down. He's like, nah, get out of here. You're not doing anything.
Leading up to it with all the hot dog stuff, like Saeed's like the annoying little dude who's just like, give me a hot dog. It's like, no. And then he has to steal and run. He's kind of always
the runt.
Yeah, he is. And then we find out like, oh, his brother's like running the place. But I like that it's not necessarily hit home. Like,
throughout
he's always
the film,
protected,
he's the runt.
Yeah.
He's the runt and he is always protected by the others and in every situation, even when they're being like having their asses absolutely whooped by the cops.
Yeah.
Like the other person in the room with him is like, don't fucking touch that guy. And he's also getting tortured. So
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt your story.
Shout to Bear, man. That guy's a badass.
Yeah. So that'd be my scene. I enjoyed them going up to that sort of like party hangout setting. It reminded me like, I would love to see a full length movie of the Foot Clan. Just the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Foot Clan.
When they're not fighting the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
What do they do?
Just the underground joint.
Hanging out eating hot dogs.
Yeah. Where Danny goes in the first movie. I want a full length movie of that. I mean, put a story in there, but just like sort of that vibe. Like they are going to fight the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and they have to report to Shredder and his lieutenants. But But that sort of reminded me of just like the Foot Clan up there in France.
Maybe a good Netflix series, you know.
There we
Foot
go.
Clan
The Foot Clan.
The fight.
Canceled after one season.
I always love a neighborhood scene, right? Like I love seeing people just sort of in their element, just kind of hanging out and getting a sense for what it's like to be them, you know. We get a lot of that in this movie, especially the fraternity on the roof. It's, again, going back to Do the Right Thing. That's one of my favorite parts of that movie, is just sort of like getting the vibe of the neighborhood. Like, I just feel like it'd be so cool to live there. Even though I am a white boy, and they would, you know, the characters in Do the Right Thing would make my life difficult, but that's okay. I deserve it. But I do love that scene here. And there's a lot of that here. There's a lot of just kind of like hanging out in the neighborhood vibes in this movie.
It is very slacker. Yeah.
This isn't my elevator pitch, but the scene where they're kind of sitting in front of that like art piece, like that big, like I don't know what it is. It's like a sculpture out somewhere in a square. And they're just kind of sitting there, just the three of them, just kind of talking. Someone's telling a joke and kids throwing pebbles at him. I don't know. I just love that scene, just like that lazy days stuff. Kayla, what would your elevator pitch be?
So I was thinking about this, and I'm like, I know at what point in the movie I go, okay, I'm in. But I think it's different than what I would pick. But I'm going to tell you the moment that I said first. But it's very early in the film. It's not even that far in, and really nothing much has happened. But very, very early in the film, there's like, you know, the film starts, there's like police brutality and different things going on. And then you just see someone like graffiti "fuck the police" on something. And once I saw "fuck the police," I was like, all right, I'm in for this. It's gonna be sick. So for me, that was the moment where I go, this is gonna be tight. I'm in. But I think the scene I would pick to show someone else would probably be the car stealing scene. Although I think the shit scene is really, really close second. But I don't feel like the shit scene captures the essence of the film. Really, and because the main character in the shit scene is not any of the three characters, even though they're there, like they're not talking, it's not about them.
Right.
So I think the scene where they steal the car is really good because it shows a lot of their relationship with each other, but also shows their kind of hell-raising nature, that they're committing crimes, they're out running the streets, doing shit. But also, you know, the guy I like's in it, but he, like, it's like a crime community, you know, sometimes in, you know, poor neighborhoods or neighborhoods that are heavier on crime and stuff like that. People really stick together in a weird way, even when they're committing crimes. And much more so than you ever see in rich neighborhoods, I think. Like, I currently live in sort of like a poorer part of town. And it's very city. Like, I live in the middle of the city. Of like very close to downtown. And like, I know all my neighbors, we all watch each other's shit. And if anything happens to my shit, someone's out there yelling at them or whatever, you know what I mean? My car got towed. Well, it got towed to here. I was having it dropped off, but my neighbor thought it was being towed away, and he offered to pay off the tow guy to not tow my car. Wow. Nice. So like, that's not like community you really find like in a rich person's neighborhood ever, where I'm committing a crime and my neighbor's just offering to pay off the tow guy to forget about it. So like, I think that, you know, it's such a small gesture that he like kind of stops the police from chasing them. But it is like, we do be supporting each other out on these streets. You know what I'm saying?
If you're rich and you disagree with Kayla, please put it in the comments. Like and subscribe.
You know what? Rich people, you got enough. I mean, live your life. But if you want to give me money, give me money. Yes, give me money.
Please do.
I will take the money.
For sure. This movie, as you talk about that, just makes me think of that video clip of that kid. She's like, I just want to do hood rat shit with my friends. You know, it's like, that's kind of what this is. Like,
but especially like if you're a disenfranchised community, like people of color who are already like over policed constantly. Not that the guy who stops them is a person of color, but just like you have to bond together in certain ways and protect each other from over policing. Or sometimes you get it. Like, some crimes are like, yeah, fucking steal something if you need it. Like, who gives a shit? You know, like it's so pointless.
Well, Jean Valjean, you know what I mean? Like, So
you guys got to stick up for each other. And that guy fucking sticks up for the guys. He didn't even know them. and he's like stops the cops from chasing them. He's like, oh, these kids are just like being rascals and stealing a car.
He's like genuinely stoked when the car starts. He's like,
yeah. He even helped like give them a tip or whatever. So
very supportive.
you know, I think that rocks. Like I said, I'm pro crime except for murder. So I just think that's like a great scene, and there's like a lot in it. It's very like thick and meaty and juicy.
Nice.
Yeah, I love that. You can see just how there's such kids, right? Like they think they're so tough. They think, and they are tough. They have to be tough, like where they live, but they're clueless, man. They're just like, they're not hardened criminals. They don't know how to do this. They kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we're all like that, and especially like people who grew up in those neighborhoods, like think we're fucking badass, and like you kind of have to be tougher than you are just to like deal sometimes. But you're a baby and you don't know.
Yeah.
That guy, by the way, was 28 when he was playing a teenager. I think.
Right, Vince? Like that was amazing to me.
Yeah.
And that like behind the scenes thing where he talk about it, he's got his beard and his hair and stuff. Like he looks like 40 now. Like I don't know. He's a good baby face for sure.
Yeah.
Great scene. I loved that scene. I loved the Grunwaldzki scene and the roof scene. In all honesty, the bathroom Grunwaldzki monologue would have been my pick, but Benjamin got to it first, and we love him.
Can
for
you
it.
not
But
also pick
I really
it?
did.
Can you not co-sign?
I told him he could.
Can, but I also did want to shout out the the scene of the DJ playing his music for the neighborhood and that really cool aerial tracking shot we get.
How did they get that shot?
Just aesthetically, I have no idea.
It's so cool. I tried to look it up. I couldn't figure it out.
Attach it to a balloon.
I was pretty blown away by it.
Or like a helicopter. They didn't really have drones back then, but they had remote control helicopters, right?
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, I'm not sure. Either way, it was really cool.
It was probably a crane.
And surprising. Yeah. And I was just surprised by that whole just the whole scene. The DJ, I love the music, the mix he was playing. Yeah. And just the shot. Really cool stuff.
Like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I think one of the
very
guys,
stylish, very cool.
One of the guys in one of the bands that does all the music for this movie is like one of the actor's brother or something. I have no details. That's a terrible fact to throw out, but I read that somewhere.
Great. One of the guys who might be the brother.
That sounds real.
Yeah.
He might be Vince's brother. I'm not sure. Yeah, pull that quote. Please write that down. Put it on screen.
We got our first promo.
Yeah, thank you. Can't remember a single detail. Can't remember the name of the band. They did do the music for this movie. I do know that. And they're somebody's brother. I don't know.
I like it.
It's good enough for me. I like it. Also, the director had a fun cameo. He was the skinhead that gets beat up. I thought that was pretty cool. He seems like a really cool dude. I want to watch more of his stuff. I've read a few articles and interviews with him, and he seems apparently he's pretty salty and he's a little bristly in interviews. He drops a lot of F-bombs and he's got a very punk rock attitude. So I definitely want to check out more of his stuff. I don't know.
Well, he was out there rioting. Like this was like stuff that he used to do. So this is like life. Firsthand experience for him. But also, like, I've never seen any of his other films either, I don't believe. But that's why Jodie Foster got involved. She produced this movie was because she liked his other film. She like loved his film so much. And she's like, find this guy. What is he doing? I want to like do what I can to like help this guy do more movies.
That's cool.
And at that point, he had already made this movie. It was like just in the can. And so she's like, what are you doing? I want to help. What can we do to like get this going? And he's like, I feel like what I'm doing is, you know, kind of a whole thing. It's like a whole statement. I feel like you probably want to like watch it before you're like, yes.
Yeah.
So, but she did watch it and was like obsessed. So, and she talks very highly of him and his work. So I'm also very interested. Jodie Foster is a very interesting person. Like she really has a more storied film journey than I think a lot of people realize. And like she's such a director and like has just like a really cool eye for stuff sometimes. That I kind of respect her opinion, and I think that probably his other shit rocks.
Yeah.
And based on this, it absolutely has to.
Yeah.
Yeah. If she co-signed this, you know, I'll start taking her more seriously.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to real quick, we're going to divert from this movie a little bit, and we're going to head over to the drive-in, Adam Driver's drive-in double feature.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to pick a few films to set up. Yeah, we're going to pick a few films that you would pick in your dream double feature. And since Kayla forgot, I'm going to start with them. No, just kidding. Let's start with Madigan and see what he picks for his double feature here.
I just had sex. I'm about to eat nachos. It's the greatest moment of my life.
Yeah, I alluded to this earlier. Or actually, I straight up mentioned this movie earlier. I'm pairing this with Boys in the Hood. I think similarly, I had a similar experience with this. I felt like when I was first watching this movie, I'm like, I would have liked this movie when I was 14, but just for the edginess and like the crime and the poverty and all that, the friends hanging out and up to no good. But as an adult watching both of these movies, there's just a much deeper meaning, much deeper theme there. And they're both like way more tragic. You know, these are just like kids. Like I remember watching Boys in the Hood, and there's the dude who's definitely like the antagonist of the movie who, you know, kills the football star. But then at the end, when they sort of get revenge on him, like it's still upsetting because they're all just kids. Like they're just teenagers. And so it's not like, it doesn't feel cool. It doesn't feel like triumphant at all. And you also know it's going to befall the kid who gets revenge. And so I had similar feelings with this movie. It's ultimately just tragic. These are victims of their circumstances. They're living in a world that definitely does not feel like is theirs. And I just thought the themes were very interesting. And so I just felt like there's a too interesting, Tyler, as you put it, it's interesting that these things are kind of universal, that they exist in different parts of the world. And so you're seeing it, you know, in France, and then you're also seeing it in Compton.
For sure. Which one goes first?
We got to go Furious Styles first, Lawrence Fishburne. So Boys in the Hood first, then we'll finish it off in France.
Nice.
Gotcha. Benjamin, how about you?
I'm gonna keep with my theme of doing international hood rat shit with my friends, and we're gonna watch City of God. Along with this, I think some of the parallels make sense. I feel like the main protagonists, like the kids, whatever, in City of God, are like a little further into it than our three dudes from Haine, but like I could see these guys being like at like the parties and stuff like that. Like they'd be around what's going on, but they wouldn't necessarily be like front and center of like the gang stuff that's going on in City of God. Yeah. But I do feel like there's the similarities here, both with like the age groups of these kids that are just being exposed to things that are just so much more mature, making them more mature than they need to be, or exposing them to things that they don't need to be dealing with at that point in their life. And I just think, you know, City of God's a great movie. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's what I would go with. I kind of feel like these would pair together nicely. I'd probably start with Haine and then go into Cidade de Deus after that.
I love it. A man after my own heart. When so on my Letterboxd review, I put I was like, oh cool, you just gave me a City of God mixed with a little bit of kids.
Oh,
maybe
nice.
A little more kids with a little bit of City of God, but I missed one really important analog that I think actually fits even more, and I mentioned it earlier as well, but it's Do the Right Thing.
Yeah.
It's to me, I was like, when I really thought about it, I'm like, it's almost the exact same story structure, right? Like we watch some young kids go through their day in a neighborhood dealing with racial adversity in different ways, and then it ends in a bang at the very end. So I think Do the Right Thing is a much more apt comparison than Kids in City of God, but regardless, I do think a mix of all those three things sort of make up what we get in Haine.
When you first said Kids in City of God, for whatever reason, the image of Jack starring Robin Williams came to my mind instead of Kids. And I'm imagining like a Jack combined with City of God.
Robin Williams in City of God.
That's a movie. It's a movie I'm glad doesn't exist. But things I am glad exist are Kayla from Screen Vomit, and I want to hear their elevator pitch.
Look at that segue.
This was an elevator pitch. This was drive-in.
Oh yeah,
double feature.
Yeah. I was so proud of my segue. Feature. Back to you. I forgot where I was in the episode.
Okay, so I thought of two answers in the 1.5 minutes it took y'all to answer. off the top of the dome. Not
Wait, was that too
fresh.
long or too short for you? What?
No, I think it was great. Okay,
Big
so one of them, and this is probably the better choice. Like this is more of like the film. You know what I mean? Is Meantime by Mike Leigh. Have you guys seen this movie? No, crickets. Have you seen any Mike Leigh movies? Are you familiar with Mike Leigh?
Not that I'm aware
of.
of.
Crickets. Okay,
not
cool.
that Mike Leigh.
Well, I mean, okay, so I don't claim to be any aficionado of his work, but he has some really fucking good movies, and Meantime is one of them. And this is more. There's not like a POC story to either of the movies that I'm about to say, this one or the other one. But there is like that working class, sort of that community, you know, is involved. So yeah, Meantime is like a working class family. It has, I think this is like the main reason why I want to pair them is because the main guy in La Haine looks like Gary Oldman in Meantime, who's like a young punk in Meantime. And it also has Tim Roth, young Tim Roth. I'm like such a fan of. I'm like obsessed with young Tim Roth. So I really love Meantime, and I think that would be just a really good movie to watch with this vibe wise. Even though it's not about police. It's not really about like any of the same themes. I just think the vibe would be cool, and they're both like really fucking good movies. And then the other one I picked is more silly. It's called West Coast. Can I pick two? I always pick two.
Yeah.
I can never decide on one thing. The other one I picked is called West Coast. It's a newer movie, but it is also French, and it's also about young kids. They're a little younger in West Coast. I think they're like middle school-ish. But they, okay, so look, it's funny, all right? But they do act like kind of gangster. They do kind of want to be POC in some ways. Okay. Kind of similar to the guy in La Haine.
Yeah.
But maybe more exaggerated in West Coast. But, you know, ultimately it's a tale of friendship. It's guys like having a whole day going on this adventure all over the place. At certain points, they're trying to pick up girls. They're doing this and that. They're getting into trouble. They're hell raising. So like all those aspects are still in this film too. So in that way, I think they would be an interesting match. Although West Coast is, I think it's a good movie, and I think it's a fun watch. It's not like cinema, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It looks interesting. Looking at the photos, I'm getting real Ricky Baker vibes from Hunt for the Wilder People. It's just
and
like, okay, cool.
It's a little prettier than that, but
for sure.
I think it's a little better produced. But yeah, I think it's good. It's interesting. Nice. It's fun. Okay, those are my choices.
And it's a tight 80 minutes. Who can complain about that?
Even Meantime is like an hour and a half or hour 40 or something. Nice. So it's not like that long either. But I really, love both of those films. Okay. Thank you. That. Carry on.
Okay, we will. We're going to carry on right over to Rushmore Mountain.
These are OR scrubs. Oh, are they?
We're going to fill out a Rushmore of movies that take place within 24 hours. We might come up with a better title for that later. But as it stands, that's what we're going with. And Matthew, what's
One Crazy Night film. How about that?
One Crazy.
That could work.
Mine is not that. Mine takes place within 24 hours. I got to go Empire Records.
Yeah.
That's such a good one.
Heard of it.
Yeah.
You ever heard of that, Ben?
I think so.
It's got it's got
Steven Tyler's daughter.
Mixed Nuts.
Yeah. Just refer to them as like other. Yeah.
All kinds of people in there.
The lady from Judy, I think she's in it.
What's the guy's name with like the big eyes?
Additions.
Oh, right.
My favorite additions to my personal watch list. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me so happy.
Such a good
I love that movie.
Ben, surprise the listeners with your pick here.
I mean, they'll never guess what's coming. But I think I'm going to go with The Witch. Yeah. I'm going to go with my favorite 24-hour movie, which is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is also just my favorite movie ever. And I don't know why, like the whole plot revolves around the fact that he did this all like in a day. But when you gave that theme, I was thinking of like Dog Day Afternoon and stuff like that. Like I just, for some reason, I never think of Ferris as like a 24-hour movie, but like it's less than that, you know. It's like whatever.
Yeah,
it's like
really
a 14-hour movie, I guess. I don't know. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like central to the plot for sure. Obviously, anytime I can talk about it, I want to. I think the amount of stuff they do is kind of unbelievable. You know, I don't know if they can actually like accomplish all that, but you know, I love that movie so much, and I just want to mention that one. So that's what I'm going to go with is Ferris Bueller.
I love that. There are a lot of good choices for this category, which I think is fun. There's going to be a lot of stuff left off. I'm going to pick one that the fact that it's one day is important to the story. And there's still that only narrows it down a little bit. I think I have to go with Do the Right Thing. That's kind of the mood I'm in right now. There's some really great honorable mentions, but I'm due for a rewatch on Do the Right Thing, and I think we're gonna cover it again soon at some point, like a recover. I don't know. We've talked about it. We're kicking around a whole podcast rebrand, so we might keep your eyes peeled for that. Yeah. So we might revisit Do the Right Thing on
To the Right Thing.
But
yeah.
Yeah. So I'll probably go with that. But there's some other good options that people can yell at me for leaving off, and that's fine. Kayla, what would you choose here?
So I have such a hard time picking one because I was only informed at the beginning of the call that we only do one now instead of 4. And even picking 4, I was like, can I pick 5?
Well, you can tell us. Please tell us all 5, but one of them has to be.
I will tell you. I picked, here's the thing. My list is 5 solid. These have to be on it. And then 5 more honorable mentions.
Okay, cool.
Okay, well, let's get the 5 solids.
But the 5 solids are really what's important. The honorable mentions can like fuck off. I don't care. Okay. I don't know which one to pick like for the mountain though. I think it's very, very hard. It's very hard for me to narrow down this 5 list. But if I have to pick one, I still don't really know, but I think I'm going to go with
just have fun and don't fuck it up.
And this is a big movie, and this is a big movie, normal movie, big director.
How big are we talking?
One of the biggest directors. I don't know in terms of his filmography. I don't think it's one of his biggest movies. But After Hours by Scorsese.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I think is like an incredible One Crazy Night film.
Yeah.
Just really so good. But this is early Scorsese, so I don't know. I'm also, we've been over this before, but like I don't have a normal sense of film because I didn't grow up watching normal stuff. So like I'm just finding Scorsese films in the last couple of years, so I don't know like what the cultural context are. I don't know like how big or small some of these are. I don't really have like the context because I never was like exposed to them and I didn't have like that conversation. So like I don't think I hear people talk about After Hours that often, but like when I watched After Hours, that's when I go, oh, the Scorsese guy's really got
he might
something.
know what he's
like,
doing.
He really got something.
Yeah,
I mean, you see some of his newer films and you go, I don't know, this is fine.
Yeah.
You watch his early films, you go, okay, there's really vision here. Like there's really something interesting in what he does. So that is, I think, the one I'm going with for the mountain, but I don't know because I really have a top 5. Can I say my 5?
Let's hear it.
Please do.
Okay. One was actually 2 of these were recently mentioned in this conversation. One is Dog Day Afternoon. That's also a big normal movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you got to be a little proud. I love young Pacino. I have a little crush.
Who doesn't?
You needed to have a new podcast called Big Normal Movies. Kayla's exploring.
Sponsored by Horny for T-shirts. Yeah.
So Dog Day Afternoon, great film, obviously. Good Time.
Yep.
That's a great single day softy movie. The best softy movie probably. Fight Me. And then Kids. I love Kids. Kids is such a good film. You mentioned Kids earlier. I think Kids, the real story of Kids and like the impact of the film and like how good it is as a film gets overshadowed by like the controversy around it and whatever.
Right.
But I think Kids is just such a really good movie and it's so unique. Like there's really nothing like it, and sort of the ways that it's challenging, I think, are really fascinating. And then the last one is a deeper one. Yeah.
I watched Kids for all the reasons Matt mentioned earlier. Like, it was just something rebellious to watch. Like, I knew you weren't supposed to watch it at that age. Yeah.
I like
Horny
kids.
I need to rewatch it as an adult.
in.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Anyways.
But yeah, kids I really love. It is genuinely good. Okay, and the last one is a little bit of a deeper cut, but it's a movie called 4 Months, 3 Weeks, and 2 Days. This is a Romanian film from 2007, but it's an abortion story based in a country where abortion is illegal and a girl needs to get one, basically. So like, it's kind of a day's journey of trying to get like a black market doctor to come over, and he sort of like swindles them, and they have all these problems, and they're also trying not to get caught by the police in Romania, or actually I think they're in Belgium. Maybe they traveled to Belgium. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's I think one of the most interesting abortion films, and a real picture of like what it is like for childbearing people in places where they don't have access to that type of healthcare. So 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. It's kind of a long title, but it is very, very good.
I like that.
And that's my list. That's my top 5.
Well, I think After Hours is a great pick. I mean, it is probably one of the least popular movies by one of the most popular directors, but last season.
So I retained my cool points.
Yeah, you're good. Last season, Ted Lasso did a whole episode kind of based around it, and then it just got announced earlier this week that in July it's entering the Criterion Collection. So they listen to what you're saying. So I think it's a great pick.
Yeah. So I'm a trendsetter.
You are.
I know what's good.
Yeah.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
We also left off the Before trilogy, Before Sunrise, Before whatever. 12 Angry Men we left off.
Talking about Lumet and Dog Day Afternoon. He's got a couple of great 24-hour movies.
Yeah.
12 Angry Men.
That's a cool category.
I don't think it beats the movies I said, though. What was the other one you just said? What was the first one you said before 12 Angry Men?
Oh, the Before trilogy, the Richard Linklater trilogy.
Never seen this.
Before Sunset. Yeah.
I don't watch love movies.
It's very cis white. It's very like cis love story. Doesn't fit your brand. I know you love the queer stories.
Not interested.
Fair enough. I don't blame you. Okay. Well, I think that'll probably do it for this episode, unless anyone has anything else they want to talk about real quick.
Is it over already?
It's over already.
I'm not prepared for it to be over. Say something else for a little while.
Well, how about for the next little bit, you plug yourself one more time. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Me? Okay, I have a podcast called Screen Vomit. You can find it all the places where podcasts are, and you can also find it maybe some other places. You can Google me. You just type Screen Vomit in there, or you can go on Instagram or Twitter or Letterboxd or anything and search Screen Vomit, and I'm there. It'll be me, my little green alien head.
Are you going to cover After Hours on Screen Vomit?
No, because I only do films from the last 10 years. That's the other thing.
Okay.
Is I guess I should explain what my podcast is, huh?
Yeah. Follow your heart, whatever you want.
So I do movies from the last 10 years, joined by guests always, because I'm not doing it by myself. My guests are, people in the art community in some way, shape, or form. So either straight up an artist, comedians, filmmakers, musicians, all types of people on there. Some people who have made some really sick stuff. I've really had the absolute joy and pleasure and blessing to talk to some of my favorite comedians and filmmakers and people that I really, really love and fanboy. And I just message them and say, will you do my podcast? And they say yes. And I say, that's crazy. So I really do have some cool ass guests on there, and I got some cool ass ones coming up. I'm a little slow on releasing until after Pride is over, because I am a big queer, and I run a Pride group that is organizing a Pride parade. So right now I'm busy as shit until after June 3rd. So after then I'll pick back up. But you know what? I just hit 4 years of doing this podcast last month. So I got all kinds of backlog. You wouldn't believe how much backlog I have to go through.
Nice.
So anyway, that's my story. That's who I am. if I haven't annoyed the absolute hell out of you by now,
Not a chance.
then seek out much more of my content. Thank you.
No, I hope people do. Kayla, I really do enjoy your perspective and talking to you. And anytime you come on the show, I really do enjoy it, despite how flustered I get at times as a host, just because I'm not good at this, but that's not your fault. That's my fault.
But every time, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And every time I make you uncomfortable, you learn how to adjust and deal with it. And then, next time you're better, you're tighter. You're like, you have a little more of that muscle. And I don't feel like I stressed you out too much this time, but, so we're getting better.
No,
that was the equalizer needed. When Matt's not here, then it's pure chaos.
It's only just trying to keep the conversation on the rails. I don't care what we talk about. You can't embarrass me talking about a topic. It's more just keeping the episode on some sort of track. You know what I mean? But no, I really do
like
appreciate
to host from the guest seat, and I sort of take over you guys' jobs, and you don't know what to do with that energy.
You're better at it than us, so
energy.
That's okay. Yeah.
I have boss boy energy, big boss energy. Some people say I come in with boss energy. I don't know what to do. I'm a host, if you guess, you know what you're getting.
That's why we love having you here. You're a big boss.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you've checked out Screen Vomit, make sure you go check out. Oh yeah, we need it. I needed someone to tell me what to do at times. But yeah, check them out. Check out Screen Vomit, like, subscribe, follow, listen, all that stuff. And then do the very same for your friends here at 3 Films and a Podcast.
But do mine first.
We will see you all. Yes, please do. Screen Vomit, then us.
I'm just
and
kidding.
then we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Bye.